Oh, yeah. It's that time.
The people are ready for this one. The people are begging for it.
Yeah, have they been?
Yeah. I had to formulate an opinion about this young socialist that's taken over New York City.
He's like 33, is that right? Did I hear that correctly? He's 33 years old?
Correct, yeah.
That's young. I don't know if you know that, but that's
young.
really, you won't know that for a while, but it is really young. To be mayor of New York, to be that talented of a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Zohran Mamdani has won the New York mayoral Democratic Party primary, which means that unless, and this is a big unless, there's a major intervention by AIPAC in the general, or someone like AIPAC, and actually Bill Ackman just 2 hours ago made a threat on Twitter that he's going to do this. Bill Ackman is a major billionaire Zionist who has pulled a lot of strings in the last year or so, getting people arrested and deported, etc. So he just on Twitter just now said he has a great idea to offer a different candidate in the general election. And of course he has endless pockets. Plus there's AIPAC, who took out Jamal Bowman.
That's the absolute wrong strategy if you want to take out Zohran.
Why?
You got to rally behind Eric Adams.
Why is that?
He's already the mayor. I mean, I don't live in New York City, but from what I've heard, he promised to decrease the number of rats in the city, and he has succeeded on that. He's the only person that has a likable charisma out of the whole candidate pile.
Eric Adams?
Eric Adams. Yeah.
Okay. That's how you see him?
I think Zohran and Eric they both have beautiful smiles. I think Eric has a better smile. I think Eric is quirky and funny and has more meme capability, and he has a decent amount of media savvy that could compete with Zohran.
Eric Adams has media savvy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. He's incompetent and corrupt, but not in a super dangerous way. And I think he's been playing some very, very smart moves since the Democratic Party kicked him out.
Oh, and, see, I think he set back black people a century by being so stupid.
I think Andrew Cuomo set Italians back a century.
Oh yeah, Italians are done because of Cuomo. I mean, they're stupid and they kill old people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Italians are done. Don't ever try to be an Italian. And then his brother Chris, and I just said this on Twitter, the guy's illiterate. People go look at his tweets. I actually deleted my tweet saying that because I really tried hard not to do ad hominems, but this was hard because he was saying ridiculous pro-war stuff and being illiterate. And then I looked at his whole Twitter, feed, and the guy can't, I mean, not just write, but he doesn't know the English language very well. So that's the Cuomos. Their dad, Mario, was a major figure in my youth in the 1980s. He was considered like, Mario Cuomo was considered like the soul of the Democratic Party. He was, urban, ethnic, but compassionate, universalistic, humanitarian, articulate, literary. In fact, Mario did have a brain, unlike his two knucklehead sons. But yeah, so the fact, and then of course Andrew Cuomo, I mean, I have sort of softened or changed my position a little bit on COVID stuff, mostly because I just don't ever want to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I think this is established. I mean, he sent senior citizens back into senior centers in New York City who were infected with the virus, and these are people all over 70, forcing them back into these senior centers where everybody was over 70, and many people were over 100 or over 80 and 90. And what are the estimates? Several thousand dead because of that. Then again,
and he fudged the numbers afterwards.
Right, and then he lied repeatedly afterward. Of course, he wasn't busted for that. He was busted for a made up Me Too thing. having allegedly, what's her name? Lindsay Boylan. That was her main accuser for Andrew Cuomo. And if you just look at her stuff and what she said, it's obviously all nonsense. He should have been put in prison for what he did to the poor senior citizens of New York City. And by the way, not the poor, and I mean that, the poor senior citizens, because I've known many seniors in New York City who were just fine and would never have died in that at all because they're rich and they can afford to live in private, fancy senior homes, retirement centers, but not these people. Yeah, he slaughtered a bunch. And then, of course, he then built this whole cult of personality. Remember that in COVID?
Well, yeah, at first, yeah. Every New Yorker was watching their TV to see what Andrew Cuomo was going to allow them to do that day.
Right.
And yeah.
And enjoying it.
And enjoying it. And CNN, with the partnership with his brother, kept having him on and like humanizing him. And
yep.
Yeah,
that's
Chris. Yeah.
The fact that most, or a lot, not most, I don't know how many, but a lot, but clearly a lot of New Yorkers liked it and wanted it. His paternalism during COVID is fascism. That makes him a fascist, and that makes that whole moment a fascist moment, because it's the willful internalization of the authority figure, and then most horribly the merger of one's identity with the head of state, in this case literally the head of state. That's a cult of personality that comes straight out of Mussolini and Hitler. And it was. I mean, Cuomo had a little brief fascist moment there, I think in 2020. It dissolved pretty quickly, thank God, because New Yorkers are just way too smart and fractious and divided and etc. To allow that to happen very long. I don't think fascism could ever happen in New York City in any real way. Minor ways. We're about to see some Stalinism.
Well,
try it out.
Yeah. Well, the long game on this is you have the Stalinist mayor from Zohran for the next 4 years, and then after that, you get your fascist mayor to clean up house after it falls apart.
So let's talk about Zohran. Zohran Mamdani, 33-year-old. Is he Pakistani? I forget.
He's Ugandan.
Oh, right. Indian Ugandan.
Ugandan, Indian American. A hyphenated American.
His parents were Indian Ugandans. I've known, is this unusual? I mean, a lot of Indians migrated to South Africa and Uganda after the partition. And I've known several, oddly. I don't know why, but a lot of Indians from Uganda, just like him, or whose parents Indian Ugandans. And so that's him. So 33, member of the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, which I was a member of in 1988. I was the head of the Democratic Socialists of America's chapter at Antioch College. The thing was that there was only one member in that chapter, and it was me. But yeah, I was a member of DSA. And then I moved to New York City shortly after that and went to some of their meetings, and everybody I knew basically at that time, they were all DSA members. So I know this thing. They've become increasingly silly. I mean, socialism, I realized, was either farcical or murderous shortly after that. And fortunately, because socialists have not held any real power in this country, it's all been farcical. The minute they have any real power, which I guess they're about to have, I don't think Mamdani's going to be murdering people. But if he's going to be a real socialist mayor, he hasn't even, well, actually, I mean, he's got there's going to be these state-owned grocery stores, and there's going to be state-owned childcare centers in which everyone will be an employee of the city government. I mean, yeah, what if those workers are not so into helping other people's kids? What if those workers are not into being the best grocery store workers they could be because their wages are not as high as they would be at Red Apple grocery? I don't know. Is he going to crack down on the working class? This is the delicious, hilarious thing whenever socialists take power. It's like immediately they realize, oh shit, now I'm the boss. And I got to discipline the workers, which you see in revolutionary Spain in the 1930s. You see in Bolshevik Russia through the 1920s. You see in communist Cuba after 1960. You see in every socialist country of any kind, every socialist regime of any kind, in Venezuela. In every case, when the workers take power, the government has to crack down on them because they're undisciplined and lazy and they don't work hard enough to produce what a socialist republic needs to survive, or any republic needs to survive. So we'll see what happens here with his extensive plans. I mean, again, there's going to be so much resistance and he won't be able to enact any of this. He's not a real Stalinist, because he'll never be able to do anything that's truly Stalinist, because there will be so much resistance to him from all angles, and he's just not built that way. And there's no sort of political context in New York City now that's anything like Russia in the 20th century, of course. But there will be some authoritarian measures that must be taken if you're going to have any kind of socialist serious initiatives within the economy of New York City. If you're going to carve out significant sections of the city economy for public education, public housing, all of it, the things he's promising, public food distribution apparently now, which is really getting down to it. And then because again, these are all government employees. Everybody in those projects will be a government employee, and there will be no incentives and no competition within that industry anymore. And so you have to either pay people off with massive subsidies from the government if it can afford it. And if it can't afford it, you got to coerce them. Will there be enough people literally in New York City willing to work at these free public groceries? I don't know. I'm not so sure. Will there be enough people in New York willing to work at, think about how many daycare centers there have to be now. Free government operated daycare centers. How many kids in New York City are under 5 years old? I mean, who aren't rich? I mean, it's a lot. It's 1 million? I don't know. That's a lot of daycare centers, a lot of workers. And what are you going to pay them? And why would they work for you in an industry in which there is no competition whatsoever? Sure, some of them will be true believers. They'll be white liberals who are my former students at Columbia University, at places like that. But the actual working class of New York City, which is 98% brown and third world and are there to make a living and don't give a shit about American morality, nor should they. Are they going to really be like gung-ho to work in a daycare center for the government at wages that are probably less than they can get in the private sector? Because that's usually how it works. I don't think so. And then what is he going to do? He's going to have to force people, conscript people to work. This is what socialists need to do. This is what every socialist regime ever in any context has had to do. The work has to be done. You have to lay roads and build bridges and teach children, and in any civilization. And if it's simply state directed and there is no market and there is no competition, then the state has to compel or coerce in some way or another every single person who works in those industries, unless, again, they are true believer socialists, which are less than 1% of the population. So sure, there will be a handful of left-wing Karens who are, working in Mamdani's grocery stores, but they're not enough to staff them. And by the way, most socialists are rich kids. And let me say that again, most socialists are rich kids, were born into wealthy families. I know this from vast experience with socialists going back to my childhood. My parents' Trotskyist organization in the 1960s, they told me this, I heard this from them, was made up mostly of trust fund kids. We know this. We know the American left has overwhelmingly been made up of wealthy people, or at least middle-class people. So where are you going to get the workers for all these city-run enterprises in New York City? And how good are those workers going to be, by the way? How are they going to be the cashiers at these New York City-run grocery stores? Are they going to be like nice and friendly and efficient, et cetera? And the ones, more importantly, taking care of your children? at these government-run healthcare daycare centers, which is, I don't know, just the idea of a government running children's care of any kind really is troubling. So that's where we are. Did you just block somebody?
Yeah. He was being pedantic and saying that the USSR was not real socialism, that Venezuela was not real socialism. And
okay. Yeah, the least of my worries is people coming in and making the like ancient communist arguments about communism. Well, okay, so fine. So the Soviet Union, sure, you could, if you want to say that wasn't real. And by the way, my family, my parents, their organization, me, until I was a young adult, that's what we believed. That was the point of Trotskyism. The Soviet Union's not real socialism. We know what real socialism is. And if you would just let us back into the Soviet Union, we can create a socialism that's real and work and make everybody happy. So you could say Soviet Union wasn't real socialism. Sure. Then you have to say also that Cuba hasn't been real socialism. North Korea hasn't been real socialism. Venezuela hasn't been real socialism. Various African countries have had socialist or communist eras recently. That wasn't real socialism either. All the countries in Eastern Europe in the Warsaw Pact, Yugoslavia wasn't real socialism. Hungary wasn't real. East Germany wasn't real socialism. The not infinite, but numerous communes when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s and even 90s across the United States that were socialist communes that were organized socialistically, and 99% of them dissolved in catastrophe. That wasn't real socialism. These are non-state, decentralized, local, communitarian socialist projects. Okay, so even that didn't work. The kibbutzim in good old Israel, I mean, you could say that's what some socialists like to point to as the most socialistic and real and effective and admirable model. Okay, it's just that everyone in those kibbutzim in early Israel certainly were all ideologically driven, so they were all socialists and Zionists and totally into the project. So if you get everybody in your population who's bought in ideologically, yeah, you can do a lot. So there's that. And then more importantly, the state of Israel has, of course, subsidized, funded, supported, defended, provided resources of all kinds to those kibbutzim since 1948. So it's not like they did it on their own. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this and I'm happy for this. I'm happy for Mamdani winning, in part because I think Cuomo and his family, but in particular Andrew himself, I don't know. That's a family that needs to be taken down. He's a grotesque, obvious, opportunistic, paternalistic politician with fascist tendencies. I'm not saying it's because he's Italian, but it might be. His brother is the same, except just a little dumber. And their father basically gave moral cover to the Democratic Party in the 1980s and 1990s when it was doing what it's always done, which is to really lead and manage the American empire globally and provide moral cover. Mario Cuomo was he was kind of like the Italian-American Obama back then. He never held office federally, but he rhetorically, and by sort of being this representative of what, how good Democrats are, how much just we love people and we're so articulate and we're educated and we're from the big cities and we're ethnic and we just love people and we're just love people. Have we mentioned that part? We're able to, under Clinton, renew the ancient, forever Democratic mission of building, maintaining, expanding the American empire at any cost. And so, yeah, he was part of that machine. Fuck them. Fuck Andrew Cuomo and what he did to those seniors and his cult of personality. And he's just disgusting. I'm sorry. I'm sort of sounding like certain people in journalism who scream a lot on TV shows. But yeah, so there's that. I mean, the Cuomos, of course, are like exemplars of the establishment by definition. I mean, their dad was a governor in the 1980s, and they've been, as a family, in some sort of power, either within the media or in the government since then. They are liars of extraordinary profligacy. I would say Andrew and Chris have probably emitted more lies than the Israeli prime minister's office in the last 30 years, which is saying everything. So yeah, and then and then Mamdani's sort of being, an anti-Zionist. He's not actually an anti-Zionist, but he's close. And of course, the mayor's foreign policy means nothing except symbolically, and it means a lot to have, I think, an Arab Muslim, or not Arab, I guess, a Muslim mayor of New York City whose chief ally is Brad Lander, who's the highest level Jewish elected official in New York City. It's good. It's very good for the foreign policy. It is, even though he has obviously no say over foreign policy, but symbolically, I think it's a W for anti-imperialists to have that as the mayor symbolically. What do you think?
This is imperialism itself coming to our. Yeah. Where to start with this? There's a couple angles. The Cuomos need to go out. They've set Italians back 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just really the Democratic Party collapsing. You've got Eric Adams getting out on corruption charges. I'm still, I think Curtis Seelwood needs to drop out. I think Andrew Cuomo running as an independent needs to drop out, put their support behind Eric Adams. And I think he's actually a really lovable figure and the best hope for the city of New York City. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's funny, Trump has been really friendly to him ever since he got blasted with those corruption charges. They've got like this bro out over being politically persecuted. And so Democratic Party has no competent politicians at all in New York City. And they should be able to stop this threat of a socialist with a funny name from not this country, who shouldn't even be in the country, who, became a citizen 6 years ago, has views that are hostile to this nation. Now,
oh my God. Wait, excuse me. Wait, he has views hostile to this nation?
Yeah.
How so?
Just socialism in general. Just like, he's obviously a social. And it's not that he's hostile. I don't think he's a jihadist like conservatards are calling him. He's not a jihadist necessarily, but he is a scammer. This is a scam. This is a foreign person trying to scam the United States. That's what this is.
Did you know?
Yeah. Just like Vivek, just like Nikki Haley. That's the pattern of politics that we're following here.
Did you know that in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, the representatives to the United States House of Representatives from Lower Manhattan, which at that point was mostly Jewish, mostly working class, were all official members of the Socialist Party of America. And they were all born in Eastern Europe. They were Eastern European Jews who were outright members of the Socialist Party and called for a socialist America. Everybody look this up. The House of Representatives, congressmen from the Lower East Side in the early 20th century, one after the other, Jewish, foreign-born, Yiddish-speaking commies. Maybe we should have deported them too.
Correct. Uh,
There you go. That's what I want to hear from you. Good shit,
obviously,
man. Stay consistent. Good shit.
Obviously,
Right.
I don't see, but he was brought over to his dad was brought Mahmoud, the academic Mahmoud. He was brought over to the United States under the same program that brought over Barack Hussein Obama's father, Barack Sr., to the United States. The same CIA, JFK airlift program. These are constructions of American imperialism. These aren't organic bottom-up movements. These are young, talented, politically minded people born in a lab by the CIA, saying whatever it will take to ride the political consciousness and scam the country.
Why would the CIA want to produce Zohran Mamdani?
It's globalism. It's
wait, what? No, you're just wrong. Wait, what?
No, I think I don't think he's necessarily an anti. I think we'll have to. All right, you say this all the time. A revolutionary person, once they get elected, becomes a part of the establishment, and they get taken over by the establishment.
I said it half an hour ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he's being a young revolutionary now, but then once he gets in office, I don't sure how much is he going to be like actually a socialist that threatens Wall Street? No,
it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I put it in my post on Twitter and everywhere.
He's probably going to sell out like AOC and the Squad sold out.
Oh,
but
sure.
If he can remain savvy and remain popular, he could be the guy for the Democratic Party in the very near future for a national run. And this seems like the first big politician to get prominence from the Democratic Party that I could see going on Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan.
Good.
And
good. No, this is so socialism to me, again, as someone who was born into the faith and believed in it into my late 30s. I'm convinced in my heart that it's either farcical or murderous or both. And nothing good comes out of it. It is the worst idea for structuring a political economy in any society that I've ever heard of and that's ever been practiced. And I just went through the list of actual socialism on earth. And again, it's a long list, guys, at this point, socialists. So like, yeah, I get it. Like you can say the Soviet Union wasn't actual socialism, but like, many, many countries. And then I said, like, there've been multiple socialist communities that have also blown up and been horrific, authoritarian nightmares, etc. But this will be interesting and important because we never finished having that argument. When I was coming up in politics in the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, that was the core of what everybody fought about in politics, was about socialism versus capitalism, liberalism versus communism, etc. Right? Like, and that's what we should be arguing about because we never finished that fight. I switched sides in that fight from a socialist to a hardcore anti-socialist, but we never finished it. And socialists are still around. They still have power in multiple countries. They still have power within the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, when I was coming up in the 80s and 90s, was Bernie Sanders the co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America? Yes, he was. He was the co-chair. Is Bernie a sellout and not really a socialist in all sorts of ways? Of course, but he still is attached to the mission of socialism and has many, many, many classic socialist Marxist ideas too. And he is a major figure in the Democratic Party. And he kind of runs still, I don't know, a third of the Democratic Party. AOC, the Squad, Ilhan Omar, very similar. Lots of socialistic ideas. Very important. Let's have this fucking fight. And the best way to have the fight is to let him try it. Let him give it a shot. Go ahead, do your public grocery stores in New York City, Zohran, and have your government-run daycare centers and see how it goes. We've done this so many times for now 120 years or so. All over the world, we've seen it happen. We've seen it tried. We've seen experiments in many, many different countries and many locales, and we've seen, let's do it again. Because we never finished that debate. I thought we did in 1991, but apparently we haven't. So yeah, the establishment loses big time, which is great. That's number one. The number one reason I like this, unless you're right and that he's actually a tool of the CIA, but that just makes no sense. I'm sorry, that can't be right. And I mean, Bill Clinton did a video endorsing Cuomo at the last minute, so you know who the CIA is on the side of. I love the establishment losing, and
it's the long game. It's the long game.
Okay, maybe, yeah. but again, and let's try it. Let's do these public works projects in New York City and see what people like it. Really, like, let's have, this is their final chance, and I think when this fails, then we can consider this debate finally dead after 100+ years of debating. 100, yeah, it's about 100 since about World War I, even earlier, turn of the 20th century. That's been the principal debate in politics in the United States, has been about socialism and about whether it sucks. And of course, the vast majority of Americans have said it sucks for lots of reasons. And we're going to finish that debate with Zohran. Plus, it's just, I mean, can you imagine Andrew Cuomo listening to him for another 4 years? I mean, I just can't. So hats off to Zohran. Good luck with your fantasies.
Eric Adams. You act like Eric Adams doesn't exist.
Why, man? It's because you love black people so much? What is that?
Again, he's defying. I think he's more anti-establishment than Zohran. I think Zohran is auditioning to be the establishment of the next generation, and he's the first. And he's gonna turn New York City into London. He's gonna do the same thing that Sadiq Khan did to London. Oh. He's auditioning to be that kind of leader.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You want the black versus Arab civil war to continue.
I want heritage Americans. I mean, also, I mean, you kind of hinted at it, but working class.
ADOS versus immigrant. That's the shit you're into. You're into that shit.
A little bit. But
it's like Camp of the Saints, but with brown people on the good side. No, it is, right? Isn't that kind of really? Sure. No, seriously, like kind of your thing. Like you fuck the immigrants. But your thing is you actually like the blacks who are native, unlike your brethren, unlike the other right wingers.
Like for real. There is like an actual heritage there to this country, like that goes back to Crispus Attucks and before. Like it's
Steve Bannon. That's Steve Bannon.
Sure, yeah, totally.
Steve Bannon loves the blacks.
Mm-hmm. But they were brought here. They deserve. They were brought here against their will. They deserve to be integrated. They deserve representation. They totally.
Wow. No, but you actually like their culture, though. That's the difference.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Clearly, I mean, that's what makes you different, like really different, and interestingly different. I think, honestly, like if you like black culture and you're still into the MAGA right wing thing in any way, like that's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I think it works. I don't think it's inconsistent because Bannon. Yeah, no, I get it. And if you look at a lot of the big MAGA personalities, a lot of them are actually black and like black.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not like Nigerian, like all the liberals. The liberals always have Nigerians as their black people representatives, immigrants, Nah, MAGA is like black people from Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah. Americans.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Americans.
Whose ancestors have been here for 300 years, bro.
Yes. They have more of a right to dictate how this country goes than I do. Like,
I mean, if seniority is your standard, sure. Yeah, totally. Of course. Yeah.
Eric Adams is great. What was I gonna say about so?
Wait, why is Eric Adams great? I didn't get that part.
Because he's actually bucking the system, running as an independent. The Democratic Party wants to get rid of him, and they want to clear him out. They want to clear out Cuomo. They don't have anybody talented to replace either of them. But Eric Adams isn't leaving, and he's a cop. He's anti-immigrant. He's anti-crime, and he's teaming up with Trump, being persecuted by the political establishment.
Yeah, it's just that I haven't ever seen a statement, a video statement by him that didn't make me embarrassed for him. He's not fully literate. Like, he's not. He can't. I'm sure he couldn't write a correct paragraph, and he can't speak exactly correctly either. Now maybe I'm being bourgeois and elitist and credentialist and all those bad things, but I don't know. It's not a good look. It's not that he's unlearned, it's that I think he's just dumb. There are brilliant people who never went to school, so they don't know the rules of grammar, but you can see that they're brilliant, and there's many examples of that. He's not one of them. He's just dumb. He's really dumb. I don't know what else to say about Guy. It's embarrassing, and I think honestly, it's just a bad look for the liberals, for black people, for the left, for cops, for whoever you like. You don't want this to be your representative because dude is stupid.
I'd rather have incompetence than malice on this one, and
yeah. Especially ideological malice.
Ideological malice. And
he seems non-ideological. I'll say that. He's not aware. He does, of course, sort of he's internalized without even knowing it various ideologies, but he's not consciously an ideologue, which makes him, you're right, way less dangerous. Correct.
Right. Did you see that working class neighborhoods, poorer neighborhoods, black and Hispanic neighborhoods overwhelmingly voted for Cuomo? And it was the white 100K and above neighborhoods in annual income that voted for Zohran.
Blacks voted for Cuomo, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, of course. It was the educated elite. And a lot of Jews, by the way, a lot of my left-wing Jews, I bet I know. I bet I know hundreds of people who voted for Mamdani, who are Jewish. Yeah. Sure. Socialism requires reading books. Like, you have to be, intellectual. You can't, like fascism. You can't, you don't know what it means unless you are a reader. So you have to go to college to understand what socialism is, and to have any kind of serious socialist political program requires, a lot of thinking, reading, debating, yada, yada. Even New Yorkers, most of them are not like that. Sure. Man.
So do these poor black and Hispanic neighborhoods have false consciousness when they're voting for Mario Cuomo? Are they?
No, never. That's the most imperialist, colonialist thing to think about any people, is the false consciousness idea of the left. No, God, no. I'm just saying. Well, first of all, I think it's going to be a catastrophe. Have I made that clear? I think Mamdani's, at least his major programs, will be catastrophes, but I think they'll be useful catastrophes. I don't think anyone will be harmed particularly. No one's going to die from it. Maybe.
I think wealthy people, all the wealthy and productive people are going to leave.
Yeah. And, maybe many will. I don't know how many, but London has a humongous billionaire and millionaire class, and their tax rate is I don't know what it is, but it's insane. And, London has only gotten more and more and more wealthy as the policies of the UK have gotten more and more socialistic in terms of taxes, et cetera. So I'm not sure about that. Some will leave. But, New York Jews who are billionaires, they love New York, as they should. No, I don't leave.
Cool.
Yeah,
so we've got the 12-day war that just happened too.
Well, they want it to be the 12-day war. We'll see. Israel's already made, I think today, there's already noises being made that Israel's going to break the ceasefire. Of course they will. Why would they not? They're going to bomb more. They have to. So let's get into this. Do you want to do the Iran thing?
Yeah. It's funny that the vaulted, or the, after everything that happened, it's like our second story. It's with everything that went down. But the United States did bomb Iran. At the moment, it seemed like Trump was really finally caving into Zionist interests. against the will of his voters. Bombing Iran had 16% support. Any sort of military action, it was widely unpopular. And in the speech afterwards, he thanked Netanyahu, and he pretty much explicitly said, in paraphrasing, "I did this because Israel asked me to." And so yeah, he bombed Fordow, and he bombed 2 other alleged.
He actually
sites.
didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. Say
well, he
that.
said here's the thing. Netanyahu made a speech first and acted like yeah. He said it was a team. Yeah, they operated as a team. Yeah, that it was both of their ideas, obviously. But I think any American watching it, I saw a lot of people who watched that speech say Trump looked very uncomfortable. He knew this was very unpopular. He knew this is what he ran against in a lot of ways, but he knew he just had to say it. And it is interesting. Netanyahu made a speech before Trump and used Trumpian language to like take credit for it and to paint themselves as the greatest partnership and team that ever existed. And yeah.
Okay, so right, the almost everyone's wrong about this, and I am right. There's a couple people who are right about this, but not many. Most people are wrong. Even people who I otherwise am totally in line with on foreign policy, they're wrong about this. They're saying what you're saying, and this is on the right and the left.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
The right wing and the left wing opponents of the war, far left, far right, you, Candace Owens, and the Socialist Workers' Party, all are saying the same thing, which is that Israel, Netanyahu, dragged Trump into this war. That this is a war for Israel. The United States has no interest in this war. The reason we entered the war and bombed Iran is because Israel finally cajoled and coerced the United States and dumbed Donald Trump into doing its bidding. The tail wags the dog. All right, I can understand if you don't know anything about history, if you don't know anything that preceded the last year, it looks like that. At least mostly, not entirely, by the way. Even now, today, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. That amazing Trump statement. By the way, that's the first use of the word fuck or shit in public by an American president in U.S. history. Never has an American president ever used the word shit or fuck publicly to the press, right? Ever in American history. That's the very first time. That in itself is something that needs to be talked about. That is truly historic. Can you think, do you know of another example? There isn't one.
I'm thinking of Obama using the N-word a lot.
He never said shit or fuck.
Yeah.
Not publicly.
I'm trying to
the
listen.
press.
Yeah.
Trump said this to TV cameras. He said this to the press. I mean, like, never has that happened. That's amazing. And that's a big deal, actually. And it's totally different, still a different issue and topic. But he said it in regards to that, which tells you how pissed off he is at Israel.
In terms of exasperation with Israel. Yeah.
Okay. And that also tells you who really runs the show. Right?
I get you. Yeah. A lot of this has reminded me.
Of course he does.
Yeah. He's the king of the world, obviously. Yeah.
He's the king of Israel.
Yeah.
Every American president has been. Look at the way Netanyahu just comports himself when he's in the White House. He sits at the edge of the chair and he's just like grinning and nodding. And Netanyahu has never said anything critical about Trump at all, or any American president, really. Yeah. Even Obama, not really.
He's calculated and sucking up to him and buttering up his ego every time. Yeah.
Because we don't even have to bomb them or invade them. We can just like press a button and stop funding them and they're toast. And every Arab army from all the countries they're currently at war with will invade them and overthrow them tomorrow if the United States withdraws all of its support, like meaning intelligence, military, not just financial. The financial and military aid is like just a part of it. The intelligence and the shooting down the missiles that are headed to them. That's what we do for them. If we stop doing all that stuff, do you think Israel would survive a week? No, hell no. So Trump knows this. I don't understand why commentators don't know this. In fact, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, anti-US, anti-imperialist commentators almost all of them seem to think that this is Israel pushing Donald Trump and the United States into another war for Israel. No, let me say, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I think the timeline. I think the timeline pushed this in a certain way, but I agree.
Yes.
I understand your
Yeah.
broader point about who's in power and whose plan this was all along. And I do think Trump has been very consistent about the nuclear Iran issue. This is something that he's always believed in, something he's always said publicly, and something that if he were to act decisively on to end like he did, like he wants to claim he did, then he would be happy to take credit for that.
Just like every other American president.
Yeah.
Every other American president has had exactly the same position on Iran's nuclear program. Every single one of them. Obama, Bush, Clinton, every one of them. Biden, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a continuity in American foreign policy vis-a-vis Iran, but actually in general, but certainly vis-a-vis Iran, that people are not understanding. And this is, I would say, the final proof that Trump is an establishment guy, at least on foreign policy. So I have what?
I think he's not fully establishment. I think on this particular issue, he's a boomer and he watches TV, and he's the product of the last person he talked to, usually.
Yeah.
And I think he's followed the establishment line in a narrow context on the Iran nuclear plan, but on the broader scale, he's still committed to limiting and ending America's involvement in the Middle East.
Yeah. So my Substack latest piece published yesterday is about this. And in a way, it's all you need to know about the Iran war, which is that since 2009, the United States...
Are you telling me your piece at thaddeusrussell.substack.com?
Yes, amazingly. Yeah, that one, the current one. Honestly, like there's nothing... Well, I would say the one before that too, last week, that I published about Iran is the other one. You need... Between those two, you're good. You really... That's all you need to know. But the main one is the current one, which because it shows that U.S. strategy toward Iran was literally codified and published as two documents by two major think tanks, the Brookings Institution and the Rand Institution, Rand Corporation. Same year, 2009, they came out with two reports which are taken to heart by many members of Congress, the National Security Council, the CIA director. I mean, Brookings and Rand have been kind of dictating American foreign policy since the Vietnam War. They both started in the Vietnam War. Rand gained its fame by prescribing Operation Phoenix in Vietnam, which was the razing and destruction of villages and etc. But they dictated or recommended a lot of the strategy in Vietnam, in Iraq, and Afghanistan. Same with Brookings. So this is major stuff. So in 2009, those two think tanks came out with two reports about Iran, which was exactly when the U.S. was reconsidering considering again its stance toward Iran. And you'll see that it's been a regime change operation even before 2009, but certainly in 2009, they codified it as a strategy. And you'll see that every single step in, especially the Brookings report about what the U.S. should do to Iran, has been undertaken in the last 20 years. And then Trump has simply finished it. What Trump has done, he's culminated the plan laid out within Washington, D.C. in 2009. That's what has been happening. Trump didn't do this, and which means it's not Israel's war. The U.S. has been trying to overthrow the Islamic Republic since 1979. You could actually argue, and in fact, you should argue, that the United States, and everybody should listen to this, has been trying to overthrow the Islamic Republic since 1953, when the U.S., in Operation Ajax, overthrew Mohammad Mossadegh in a coordinated coup that was largely directed by the CIA in Iran. because Mossadegh was too close to the communists. So the Islamism wasn't quite an issue yet. But the second that Mossadegh was overthrown and replaced by the Shah of Iran, the American puppet, what did he do? His major opposition was the communists. So he murdered thousands and thousands of communists with CIA help after 1953. But then the Islamic movement in Iran, led by this young guy named Khomeini, became a bigger problem. And so the CIA helped train the secret police under the Shah, known as the Savak, in advanced state-of-the-art torture techniques to extract confessions from these Islamic rebels who were increasingly being led by Khomeini in the 60s and 70s. And so there were thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Islamists who wanted to replace the Shah, who saw him correctly as a puppet of the United States empire. And they wanted to impose an Islamic regime that was free of Western influence. And so by 1979, they were able to amass a large enough movement to do exactly that. That's the Islamic Revolution. Much of the Islamic Revolution in Iran that culminated in 1979 was simply an anti-American movement, because they had subverted and overthrown the democratically elected government of Iran in 1953, and then helped the torture, directed in large part the torture of generations of Islamic rebels against the Shah after that. And then in 79, do we wonder why they took hostages in the American embassy and held them? And do we wonder why, ever since then, Iran has called us, the government has called the United States, the great Satan? I haven't even gotten to just 3 months after the Iranian Revolution of 79, the United States encourages Saddam Hussein in Iraq, next door, to invade Iran and says, we'll give you weapons and funding if you do that. And we gave him $40 billion worth of aid to invade and attack Iran, which became an 8-year war that killed more than 1 million people in Iran. And that was just the beginning. Then we started funding covert terrorist groups like the MEK in Iran, who would attack villages and cities in the periphery of Iran from outside with US CIA funding and weapons and training, and all sorts of regime change opposition groups inside Iran through all sorts of funding and streaming in radio channels from outside Iran into Iran that are anti-regime, calling for Iranians to overthrow and replace the regime. And I mean, it's been unabated. Since 1953, the United States has waged war covertly and overtly against the Islamic Republic of Iran. And why is this? Because Israel has been correctly perceived in Iran, correctly perceived since 1953, since 1948, as what Americans have called it, the forward operating base of the American empire. Alexander Haig, Secretary of State under Reagan, called it the unsinkable aircraft carrier of the United States in the Middle East. Israel has been the tip of the American imperial spear. Israel has carried out all the killing and has been willing to take all the casualties, by the way. Also, that's the deal. That's the deal between the U.S. and Israel that people don't quite get. Since 1948, especially since 67, Israel has said, we are willing to take the casualties to have our boys die in combat. We will do this if you give us continued support. We will be the tip of your spear. And that's exactly what's played out. Americans have certainly died in these wars, but many Israelis, the percentage of Israelis who have died is far greater. 35, it's going to be close to 40,000 by the end of this war. Israelis have died, and it's a small country in these wars. We have used, the United States has used Israel, as I said, as our forward operating base in the Middle East. Used them. when they've crossed us, when they've gone too far, when they've been too brutal, when they've embarrassed us, when they've done, then usually, not always, but usually the US, even with Trump, has stepped in and stopped them. We know this. And so that's what Trump is doing. He's just simply continuing a decades old strategy to change the regime in Iran and to eliminate the Islamic nationalist anti-American threat there by any means necessary, or most means necessary. It's always been a regime change war. It's always been the American war, and the United States has used Israel in that process ever since. And so this is the subject of my 2 Substack pieces this week, and everyone should go check that out.
But how do you square that with the 12-day war being over and world peace being finally achieved?
Sure, I couldn't possibly. Clearly, that subverts my entire thesis. Really makes a mockery of it. In fact, my thesis has been disproven by what's happened in the last 2 days. No, I mean, sure, if this is actually the end of the war, yeah, I am wrong. I'm stupidly wrong. I'm embarrassed. I'm flamingly wrong. Does anyone think this war is over? That this particular conflict is over? As I said, just today, Israel's been making noises that they're going to break the ceasefire any moment. Has Israel ever broken a ceasefire? Israel's broken every ceasefire in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria. I mean, this is what they do. They cheat, they lie, they fake people out, they pretend to be negotiating, and they drop bombs on their children. The casualty estimates in Iran are getting close to 1,000 now. It's about 900, mostly civilian casualties. And Israelis are just high-fiving and laughing and cheering and super stoked about killing all those people for what? A delay in the Iranian nuclear program of a few months, which is now what we're finding out, because those bombs actually only damaged the entranceways to the fucking Fordo facility. It's a murderous regime. Zionism requires murder. You have to kill the indigenous people to maintain your colony. They said this, the Zionists said this in the 1920s. They said it in the 1930s. They said it in the 1940s. They've always said it. The people will resist because every indigenous colonized population has resisted. And therefore we're going to have to kill them in response and drive them out through military means forever. That's what a Jewish state in the Middle East requires. And that's exactly what we've seen. Do we want to keep continuing this? Do we want to keep continuing to support this project, which also is showing that Jews are actually what the medieval great anti-Semites said, which is that Jews kill children. Jews kill children and enjoy killing children, and Jews must kill children. Well, guess what we're now doing? Jews are doing now, at least in the name of Jews, killing children and then laughing about it and cheering about it and saying this is great. And most importantly, what they've been saying for 2 years now almost is that Jews, in order to survive, must kill children. If we don't kill the children in Gaza, Jews will be murdered. There will be a genocide against Jews. That is exactly the argument made by Zionists since October 7th. We, Jews, must kill children in order to survive. Every limbless girl in Gaza, and there are now more than 3,000 children in Gaza missing limbs. Missing limbs? I can't. That's worse than dead. Blind. There's 1,000 or so blind children in Gaza. But like, if I see another fucking video of a little 5-year-old girl with no legs, and I've seen so many, or how about this? No arms and no legs. I've seen so many little boys with 1 arm, 2 arm, 1 arm, no arms, 1 leg. Thousands of children missing limbs in one city. God, man, it makes me into a Christian. These people are going to hell, aren't they, Michael? Everyone responsible for this? I am not a Christian. I think that's a complete fiction. But in my heart, my heart is Christian. Everybody who is responsible for this, who has defended it, who has excused it, who is still cheering it on, in my heart of hearts, and I am not this person rationally, intellectually, but I am this person in my heart. Every single person like that, and this includes a lot of my friends, they're going to hell. Like, I don't see how you can, the sociopathy, the political commitment, the dogma, I don't know what it is to watch. And since the embargo, since the Iran war started last 2 weeks, we need to say this, like, report this for those who don't know, Israel has ramped up the bombing in Gaza. It's been 2 of the most lethal weeks. It might be the most lethal weeks so far, which is saying everything. Piers Morgan, who is just an establishment shill generally, today, I think, he listed the casualty numbers daily for the last 2 weeks, and it's dozens every single day dead in Gaza. Israel is bombing tents. They're bombing apartment blocks. They're shooting children in the head in the street every single day. We have American and British doctors saying that they're treating children every single day who have been shot in the head, in the face, in the chest, every single day by an Israeli sniper. That means it was deliberate. That means you're looking through a scope, you see a little girl's head, and you pull the trigger every single day. I mean, fuck. And they've been using the Iran war as cover. That's one of the reasons for the Iran war, is that we're all looking over at Iran now. And I've been making a point to, I've been trying on Twitter and Substack to like point out that this is going on while they're killing 1,000 children and 1,000 civilians in Iran. It's astonishing. Like, the Zionists think the whole world wants to kill them from birth just because of who they are, which is wrong. As Jews, they think that. And so their absolute ruthlessness and mercilessness, and this goes all the way back to the 1920s, and Jabotinsky, it's always been self-justifying. They've always felt like they can bomb hotels like the King David Hotel in 1947-8 and kill 100 British people and wound lots of others, and whoever. They can sink the USS Liberty. Yeah, they did. And kill American sailors by the dozen. And they don't feel bad about it because we are Jews and we're eternally oppressed and we're Holocaust survivors, and therefore we can do whatever the fuck we want. The original Zionist mentality was absolutely this. And you can see it. Just look at them. They were even like modern Israelis will say this, like the original Zionists, the one who actually settled the country and are the ones who drove the Palestinians out of their towns and villages by force and forcibly took over their homes, and those guys were gangsters, like actual gangsters. And many of them were literal gangsters who were members of the Murder Inc. in New York and the Purple Gang in Detroit and various gangs in Eastern Europe. It's a gangster colony. I mean, yeah. And then there's the American project of controlling the Middle East, which it's been undertaking since 1945, when oil was discovered in the Middle East in the mid 20th century. And then after the United States got through with World War II, it turned its attention to that and realized it needed to control that oil supply. If you're going to control the world, you got to control the oil. And so, as I said, since 1953, or even before then, there was a CIA engineered coup in Syria in the late 1940s. That was the very first covert operation by the CIA, by the way. It was in Syria way back then. But the big one was Iran, 53. And the suffering and destruction that we, the United States, through the workings of the CIA in that very country, is just unfathomable. And there's no question to me why those people might hate our guts. And it's amazing to me that most don't. Most don't. And last thing, is that YouTube is wonderful in a lot of ways. And one of them is that there are tons and tons of just videos of people just walking into foreign countries and just with their camera, just walking through the streets, showing what it looks like, what the people look like, how they act. Go to YouTube and type in Tehran walking tour, whatever. There's a bunch of like dumb Americans who don't know anything about politics, but they're like into like, let's go check out Tehran. I heard it's Iran. I heard it's weird. And you can just see that 99% of what goes on in those countries looks like what goes on in our country, which is that people are just hustling to make a living, going from here to there, thinking about their relationships and their jobs and their children. And, it's just clearly not what we are told. I think YouTube will be one of the greatest anti-imperialist weapons and tools that we've ever had, because we can literally now see inside of those countries. Is it that women are being shackled and chained and tortured and whipped and punished and imprisoned for not wearing the hijab correctly? No, you'll see. Go look at these YouTube videos taken this year of people just walking through Tehran with a camera. You'll see, I don't know, my estimate's like 30 to 40% of the women, especially the young ones, are not wearing any covering on their hair. And doing so, they look very comfortable doing so too. And people just seem quite relaxed in Iran. I know there's a guidance patrol. I know that there's a morality police. I know that people have been imprisoned and tortured and et cetera. But it's so much, 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 much less than we are led to believe. It's just the exaggeration is crazy. There's 90 million people in that country. And just look at any video. You can see most of those people don't even think about politics. They don't think about politics. But you want to drop bombs on them and have a revolution there and a civil war again in that country. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something I was trying to explain to boomers over the last week was I think it's probably safer to be a woman in Iran than it is in Saudi Arabia. I think I'd rather be a woman.
Or in New York City.
Or with the foreigners catcalling?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's safe in the United States too, but I think in an actual Sharia law country like that, do you think guys get away with rape there? It's not India. It's a completely different thing. If India were an actual Muslim, and I'm not advocating for this, but it's just not what we think. It's just different. And there's just zero reason to invade or attack this country. They pose no threat whatsoever to America, and they love American culture.
Yeah. Persians.
They love American TV shows. And that's the subject. Yeah, that's the subject of my last Substack piece from last week. They love American culture, and they all have satellite dishes, and they love Madonna and Britney Spears and Kim Kardashian and all the rest of it. And most of them are secular now. A majority are now secular. They're not religious. They don't give a shit about the Ayatollah. They want to watch TV.
Yeah, agreed. So Trump, with his world peace and ending the 12-day war, though, I do think there's overwhelming Israel fatigue in general around the world. But
I'm sure.
I think on this particular thing, he's been consistent in saying my bombs were the best bombs. It was the best military operation in the history of all military operations. This definitively ended the threat of a nuclear Iran. There's no more need for any more intervention. He's overwhelmingly said that. There's been the leaks from his own intelligence and from his own intelligence agencies, as well as to CNN and the New York Times, saying that these attacks didn't actually do anything. To which he's responded and called them fake news and said, no, these were the most effective strikes ever. And the only reason why you would say that these strikes weren't effective from a gaming perspective is to try to drag the United States back into this conflict, which is what the New York Times and CNN have always tried to do. It's funny, CNN was airing a piece called "Why Iran Hates America" when the news broke that the United States bombed Iran. But
Right.
it looks like Trump has actually talked to Steve Bannon recently, and that Steve Bannon has been firmly committed against Israel in a very explicit way that he was not before. It seems that he is communicating with him and the Tucker wing of his base. He knows that they don't want anything more here. And Steve Bannon seems to be spinning this as we really are done. And I don't think he wants regime change potentially by the hands of American involvement necessarily. It is. Yeah. I just think his administration has explicitly, we're stopping here. This is your war from here on out, and trying to enforce the end with a ceasefire.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, yes, Trump struggles with this a bit because of his base being split. But again, half of his base loves the Iran strikes. They love it.
I think
love it.
Boomers.
Laura Loomer.
And Trump is a boomer.
Laura Loomer's your age.
Laura Loomer, but she's okay.
She's in the White House. I mean,
she's not in the White House.
Trump says nice things about her.
She's not jeopardized Trump in many ways. I think
Mark Levin
is a plant that is on Fox News,
but Trump likes him.
Trump, because he's on television.
Whatever, he likes him. Yeah, he likes Pete Hegseth is a massive Zionist. Pete Hegseth has said shit about Israel that would freak anybody out. He's a hair on fire Zionist, and he's Trump trusts him. Rubio says whatever Israel wants him to say. I mean, but again, it's his American war.
Hegseth has been consistent in not wanting to drag U.S. soldiers into another war like Iraq. He may like Israel and see them as a strategic ally
until Trump told him to.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trump's the boss.
Right.
And so
I'm just saying that, yes, I get that there's like in his head and in the head of JD Vance and in the head of Tulsi Gabbard and a few of the Trump people, there's ambivalence about all this stuff about Israel, but the whole weight of the foreign policy establishment and people in his own cabinet and the Mary Mandelson dollars, but mostly just the weight of foreign policy for the last 30 plus years toward Iran, I think just ultimately guided Trump into this decision. He's following the playbook, literally the blueprint since 2009 about how to handle Iran. And I lay it out with large quotes from those two documents that the Brookings and the Rand Institutes published in 2009. It's very, very clear that Trump chose, I'm not saying he was forced, he chose to follow those blueprints, which means it's America's war. It's not Israel's war.
Correct. Yeah.
But you got to read those documents. You got to see what was planned by the foreign policy establishment 26 years ago. You got to look at it, or 16 years ago. You got to go look at it, the words. You'll see it's amazing. He's just followed the script, as did Biden, as did Obama, as did Clinton, all of them, Bush, they all did. They followed that script laid out very, very clearly in 2009. So he's not MAGA at the end of the day. He's not America first at the end of the day, at least on these issues. He is, and he's not pro-Israel either. This is what my main point. He's not a captive of Israel either. He is following the U.S. script for regime change in Iran that's been established for decades. He is not essentially differing from that script. That is Trump's major betrayal. He is a man on this issue absolutely of the establishment. That is his primary betrayal of his base, of his voters, of the people who believed that he would not be a part of the script written by the establishment about foreign countries. But yeah, in 2009, Brookings and Rand said, whoever you are, future president, you're going to do this. And Trump just did it to a T. So it's MAGA is going to fall. MAGA is already falling apart, isn't it? I mean, do you think MAGA has any hope at this point?
Bannon's still behind him. Everybody who's been criticizing is still behind him. The only people who are falling apart are, I think, Tucker and Bannon have been laying on, and they are the ones who really represent factions and have the most to lose by going against Trump. They have been laying on the praise as thick as they possibly can for how he executed this limited strike in this one instance and how he immediately negotiated a ceasefire. So, yeah, as long as that stays, I mean, I think it still hangs in the balance. I think this was widely unpopular, but I think we're very, very short into the Trump presidency here. It's only been a few months still, and
true.
Yeah, I think it's. I know. Yeah.
I really don't think he's going to make it 4 years. I really don't. It's just simply too volatile, too chaotic, too provocative. I mean, damn near every single day, he does something that makes some portion of the population want to kill him. And I'm not saying he's going to be assassinated, although I think that's a real possibility, but some kind of deposing of Trump. Either he will be forced to resign, there will be an impeachment, there will be a massive rebellion among MAGA, his following against him.
Well, this is the thing that
it's already happening. I mean, I just don't see that. It's 6 months, right? Half a year.
Yeah.
Do we really think this is going to continue for 3.5 more years and Trump is going to make it all? And it'll be 82, right? By the end of that. He's also getting increasingly, I would say, old manish and senile and silly and boomerish. And I mean, his tweets on Truth Social in the last couple of days have been just completely embarrassing. Do you see the latest couple of tweets or on Truth Social?
About Zohran or about?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, talking about his looks. I mean, it's typical Trump stuff, but it's just to the nth degree now, and it's relentless. It's multiple times a day, and his base is just leaving him. They're just leaving him.
I think that still remains to be seen. I think especially a lot of the people who are independents who voted for him have no illusions about who the Democrats are, and still see him as a superior choice. This is the thing, though. He might get. This is the thing. If the Republicans keep their pro-Israel rhetoric up, I think that's going to spell doom for them in the midterms. And if and when that happens and Democrats take over a sizable enough majority to impeach Trump, they obviously will. They will impeach Trump for anything. They tried to do it over the Iran strikes. They tried to do it over deportations. They'll do it for any possible excuse they have. It's like that's the number one Democratic position is to impeach Trump. That's what defines them.
True.
But barring that, I think he's strong and he's you just gotta. I think he's.
You think he's strong?
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I don't see the strength. I think like our friend Batya Ungar Sargon is his only supporter among journalists, and I don't.
Among journalists, but
even the base, I don't. I mean, I see every single day. Major MAGA figures. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not happy at all.
She's still MAGA though.
She's still MAGA, but she
still 10 toes down. But
he just called off the raids, the deportation raids in the 4 largest illegal immigrant economic sectors in California. I mean, Well, no, we're not going to deport any farm workers and not deport any restaurant workers and not deport any hotel workers. Really? Oh, that means you're not going to deport most of them. I see. Which means this whole thing has been bullshit. And you actually are never serious about deportations, because now you find out about what illegal immigrants really are in this country, which is to say essential parts of our country and our economy, who are the most loyal, law-abiding people in America. They're far more law-abiding than American natural-born citizens.
All right, Thad, you can't keep saying that. Have you seen? But that's
they clearly are.
That's only. All right.
Go ahead.
I love American Black culture. Okay, but the stats on this for Hispanics.
Wait.
All right.
Okay,
I know.
Go ahead.
Blacks, they do have a right to be here and everything, but this whole illegal immigrants.
I don't know.
Illegal immigrants have less crime than American citizens. It's like,
of course they are. Of course they're less.
But like the problem is we have a criminal underclass of Black people in this country that commit crimes at astronomical levels.
Yes.
That make the United States an outlier for crime statistics.
Oh.
And Hispanics, illegal immigrants commit crimes that are higher than the rest of the population. Bro. But lower than the Black population.
Bro,
like if you look at these, yeah. And so more illegal immigrants means more crime on the aggregate, even though they commit less crime than the highly criminal.
I ran these numbers on Twitter. I'm sorry you didn't see this.
Yeah.
So guys, go into Grok, go into ChatGPT, whatever you want. Look it up. Google it. Google crime rate for white. I know the Blacks are crazy. I know the Blacks are killing everybody. It's true. Black crime rates are through the roof. Correct. No, white American crime rate. White American, native born, white American citizen crime rate is higher than the crime rate for illegal immigrants in America. And again, that should be expected.
I've got different numbers than you on this, but
okay, but wait, that should be expected. Again, illegal. If you've ever known illegal immigrants, and I've known several, but just think about it, would an illegal immigrant be more or less likely to be carefully, cautiously law-abiding? Of course they would, because they know if they just get pulled over for a speeding ticket, they're going to get deported. So that's why they follow the law assiduously. Mostly, the vast majority of them are the quietest, most complicit, submissive people in our country. Because again, if an American were an illegal immigrant, as many are in other countries, and in fact, I can think of a friend of mine who's an illegal immigrant in Mexico, do you think she is more or less likely to commit a crime in Mexico, knowing that she could be deported if she gets caught? Of course not. So no, of course, white people in America are more likely to be criminals than illegal immigrants. And so we need more illegal immigrants in this country and fewer native-born Americans if we want a lower crime rate. It's clear. I'm not kidding. Come on. We need more Jose's and Javier's, and I'm totally serious.
A nation isn't a theoretical statistic playground. It's a place compromised of people who share a background and people who share a common history and faith and worldview. And that's what a nation is. And
what's our common in America? We have that. I'm not
white
sure.
Protestant. America is a white Protestant nation.
Oh, really? That's the common. Seriously, but you're
that's
Catholic?
What it was designed to be. I know, but I'm here as a guest. And
the Catholics and all the Catholics and the Jews and the atheists and the commies who are Americans. What are you talking about, bro? And why do you want to preserve that? Why are you standing up for that?
That's what a nation literally is. That's how this was established. That's the values of I want
back in the 20s. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
No. So you're in Indiana.
Yeah.
Let's do this again. You're in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
You're Catholic.
Yeah.
Indiana in the 1920s had the largest Ku Klux Klan organization in history.
Mm-hmm.
And its principal objective was to rid Indiana and the United States of Catholics.
Yeah.
Okay, we know this. So wait, are you on the side of the Klan's project then? Sounds like it.
No. But they're, I mean,
you're the best, Michael.
One, they're obviously like, they're right. They're right about their vision of America.
Do it. Take it through. Go for it. Yeah.
But
they are.
But
there's a logical coherence for sure.
Yeah.
In the Klan's argument,
which
is that America should be made up predominantly or entirely by descendants of.
But here's the thing:
the American Revolution.
My ancestors, like Protestantized themselves and became boring. Like they became boring white bread Americans,
right?
And they stayed here on good behavior.
But they're still Catholic.
I mean, post-Vatican II Catholicism is basically Protestantism.
But they're nominally Catholic.
Yeah,
right?
but sure. But
so they're going to be always suspect because their primary allegiance is to the Pope, not to the president.
Sure, I get that. I mean, but you got Spain. Spain has a long history of being on this continent. You've got a shared heritage amongst European Christians that certain other communities don't necessarily. And like we came over here legally with sponsors, legally with sponsors. It was all above board, all integrated.
All above board? You're telling me Catholic practice is all above board and has been? Wait, excuse me? Excuse me?
You know this. The mafiosos were Jewish. The real criminals were...
Excuse me? What? Yeah. No, they were Sicilian and Jewish. Okay, I think we all know this.
The lower level ones were Sicilian, but the ones who actually...
Oh,
the
really?
Ones that,
Oh, you're saying Jews controlled the Gambino family too? Like,
no, but the one... come on, Bugsy Siegel was way higher up, than...
Yeah. No, I love my Jewish gangsters. I've written about them. All right. We got to go. I got to go. But listen, Substack. Can you put that on the board here?
Yeah. Heaven forbid I'd be in Abruzzo right now.
Everything's going to Substack. Check out my latest pieces on Iran. And if you want to join the after show, which starts right now, become a patron member, and that'll eventually be Substack. But become a patron member right now, and I got to go.
Okay. You can't be... All right.
What?
You got to, like... see yourself as a guest to the country that you're in, and like the United States is obviously a white Protestant nation.
You should
like,
too.
Yeah, I'm a guest. Like,
I see. Got it. Okay. Assimilation is required. Got it.
Yeah, it's like literally part of the deal. Otherwise, I should have just stayed my ass in Abruzzo.
Peace. Abruzzo's nice.
Abruzzo's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you think I'd be complaining if somebody got me a one-way ticket back to Abruzzo? I'd be like,
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Peace out.
Peace.